Also represent the local and community and Postal Workers United.
And what's the purpose of today's demonstration? We're in front of the Staples office superstore on York Road in Baltimore.
Well, Staples has a pilot program. They have right now about 82 post offices in Staples stores down in Southern California, Massachusetts, Pittsburgh, and in Atlanta, Georgia. If the pilot program is successful, if it works out for Staples, they're going to expand it to all 1,600 stores. And of course, that opens the door to having post office in Walmart's, McDonald's, whatever. And that would basically put the Postal Service, the post offices, out of business.
And the word for that is privatization.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is, privatization.
I think it goes back to Reagan and these other guys. The 1%
they're trying to privatize, your prisons, schools, your fire department, your police department. They want all that privatized. It's all for profit.
And is it good for the middle class? Is it good for union workers?
No, what we've seen is decrease in service and increase in costs. And of course, if they privatize public service sectors, that is our taxpayer money making somebody else with a profit off of this.
And who's doing this? Who is the U.S. Postal Service? Who is that? Is it a corporation of some kind?
Well, in 1971, they had the Postal Reform Act. It's a separate entity of the federal government. At that time, taxpayer money no longer, from that point on, no longer pays for the Postal Service. It's all supported by revenue from income from sales on shipping and letters and stamps.
And what can people do if they support you? If people in the middle class say, what's going on here? We don't want this. What can they do, Tom?
Well, contact your congressman. Mikulski here, Ben Cardin, John Delaney, contact Congress. Tell them you don't want this because it's going to, like I said, it's going to decrease service and increase the cost. Right now we're about a third the cost of what it costs to ship something by UPS and about half the cost on the average by FedEx. Without the competition from the post office keeping those prices down, basically UPS and FedEx and the other companies will have a monopoly on this and the prices are going to go sky high. And in Canada, we've already seen the mail letter in Canada now is $1. They just recently had over a 30% increase in the cost of the stamp. Overseas, almost the entire European postal system has been privatized. And we've seen a big decrease in service. For instance, the Netherlands and New Zealand, they only deliver every other day, 3 days a week.
So that's what's going to happen if the corporations take this over.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's already precedent for it. We've seen what happened overseas.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know the people in Chicago, they let their meter service go over to, the parking meters went over to a private company, and the meter rate went way, way, way up, over the top.
Same places where they privatized water systems. We've seen, like in Texas, the public water was privatized, and rates went 3 times what they were before it was privatized. Because you're putting this profit motive into it. They decrease service because they try to skimp and save as much as they can, and all the profits go back into the business, into the stockholders, and into the people that own the company.
Anything else, Tom?
I think I've said enough.
I think you said there are rallies all around the country today.
There are more than 57 rallies at the last count across the country, all the major cities across the country. And this is being sponsored not just by the American Postal Workers Union, by the letter carriers, by the mail handlers, and by the rural carriers. All 4 unions. And of course, I represent Community and Postal Workers United by the communities across the country. You're part of the community. Cindy Walsh over here is part of the community. The post office belongs to the American people. It's their birthright as a citizen of the United States.
I think it goes back to Ben Franklin, doesn't it?
Yep.
Even before there was America.
Before 1776, before there was even the United States, before the colonies joined together to fight against the British, there was a postal service.
That's fantastic. Let's see what happens on this, Tom. It's going to be a tough fight.
Well, we're not going to give up. We're not going to go home. We're here for 4 hours a day. It's symbolic that we're going to stay and fight however long it takes to win this.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And your name, sir?
Courtney Jenkins.
And Courtney, where are you from?
I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
And what union do you belong to?
I represent the Baltimore Local 181 of the American Postal Workers Union.
And why are you here today at this Staples store?
We're here to let Staples know that we do not agree with them offering postal services in their stores without staffing those counters with union members.
And what will happen if that happens? What do you think is going to happen to the union members?
Well, it'll undermine the union's power. as far as with the CBA, and union members will just suffer all in general because they'll see it as though as an attack on their wages, attack on their livelihood. And it's undermining what we bargained so hard to gain over the past 30 and 40 years.
And will these workers at Staples be trained? Will they have their allegiance to the service as you guys do?
No, sir. We're sworn to take an oath to protect the sanctity of the mail, which is not required by these Staples employees who are offering these services as of right now.
And I would suppose there's going to be concern by the taxpayers about their privacy,
Yes,
their
sir.
identification, and all that being turned over to a private corporation and to untrained workers.
Yes, sir. The mail won't be secure until it reaches Postal Service's hands. So while the mail is at Staples, being collected or retail at the retail centers, the sanctity of the mail will not be protected until a postal truck or postal mail carrier comes and picks up this mail.
Now, Courtney, some people are also wondering, Staples just announced it's going to close hundreds of stores. So, does this make any sense?
No, sir. They have the power to close stores, and if these retail centers are inside the stores, they go along with the stores that are closing. There has to be approval to close any post office in the country. And this could affect small rural areas who depend on their post service as a community center. But they could close this Staples tomorrow, and if the retail center's in it, people will have to find another place to go to use the post offices and their services.
Anything else, Courtney?
No, we hope the public gets behind us, and they see that what's going on here. The UPS and Staples are on a sweetheart deal. They haven't given us all the information, all specifics, so they're trying to hide something, but we're out here to let them know that the U.S. mail is not for sale.
Thank you so much.